game drillers, and welcome to a new video. This video is my top 10 villains who should appear in Spider-Man Homecoming 2, of course, as the main villain, the main antagonist of Spider-Man Homecoming 2, whatever they call it. And yeah, a bit different. I got the countdown over here, and yeah, so it's a bit different. I haven't seen Spider-Man Homecoming. I guess I'll have to wait until the DVD comes out or something, when it comes out on a cable or whatever, so I can watch it there. Yeah, from what I've heard, it was pretty good. There was a lot of good stuff, and I'm pretty happy they used the Vulture as the main villain. Vulture's a bit of an underrated character in my opinion, and I think from what I hear, they've done him well. So yeah, but these are 10 characters that I think should be the main villain of the sequel. And yeah, of course, the honorable mentions will be rolling on after number 2. And yeah, so see you with number 10. And at number 10 we have Sandman. Now Sandman is a pretty cool character who I think was portrayed very well in his appearance in Spider-Man 3, which, you know, is a feat in itself, because Spider-Man 3, yeah, I mean, you know, for all you One Piece and Naruto fans out there, you know how cool characters with sand powers can be. But he's at number 10 purely because his character is very similar to Vulture's, as an everyday criminal with some kind of special thing about them. You know, like Sandman, he has the sand powers, Vulture has like the suit and whatever. But regardless of that, just like they changed the Mandarin, Baron Zemo, I think Flint's character can be changed drastically to fit a new narrative, which, you know, could work very well. You know, I don't know, like maybe he was like a test dummy that went wrong or something, I don't know. But, you know, it feels very similar, which is why he's at number 10. So now at number 9. And at number 9 we have the maniacal Russian animal hunter himself, Kraven, and his bae, Calypso, the voodoo priestess from Haiti. Kraven is one of those bad guys who works well when he's hired by another bigger villain, like KG Beast was in Batman vs Superman, or Bullseye in the Daredevil movie, or, you know, something along those lines. But he could make an amazing main villain himself, just, you know, the big deal, you know, the big boss, you know, the head honcho. He considers Spider-Man one of his greatest hunts he could ever have, with Spidey being a mutate, of course, and goes to kill him. After all the public attention Spider-Man could get by being allied with the Avengers and whatnot, you know. Obviously, I'm assuming people know that Spider-Man has like some link to the Avengers, so I don't know. But yeah, in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 game, Kraven, in an attempt to capture Spidey, acted like he was training Spider-Man to become the ultimate hunter, when in reality he was hired by the Kingpin to kill Spider-Man. If you get rid of the Kingpin, this could work in a standalone movie. For the first half of the movie, Kraven could act like he's mentoring Spider-Man with his abilities and fighting, unlike Tony's mentoring, which was more with morals and, you know, intellect and stuff. I assume that's what Tony was mentoring him in, because I haven't seen the movie. But in reality, he's just scoping out his weaknesses and strengths to use against him to kill him. Now, I'm not sure if, as I said, he could be like the main villain, so, you know, he just wants to kill Spidey, or, you know, he's being hired by somebody. Somebody like in this top 10 said he has people who could go and kill Spider-Man, so maybe it could be Kraven, who knows. He could have Calypso be sort of as like a decoy to give Spidey a threat to test him on. So, you know, it's like he's acting like he's training him and stuff, and then he has Calypso do like a bunch of crimes and stuff, so Spider-Man can go and like try to take her on and stuff. Just, you know, just to scope him out and test him to see if he, you know, what he knows and whatnot. And the fight could be the fights between them could just be wonderful. I mean, a proper hand-to-hand fight between Spider-Man and Kraven could even rival Bucky and Cap's fight scenes from The Winter Soldier. And, of course, by extension, you could tease Chameleon being the next villain, or in a role similar to Calypso in this movie. Of course, Chameleon being Kraven's brother, I think. Yeah. But that's it for Kraven. Time for number 8. And at number 8, we have Mr. Negative. Being here mostly due to his possible boom in popularity because of Insomniac's Spider-Man game, which is coming out next year. I've been covering it a lot on the channel. Mr. Negative would honestly work really well within the MCU universe as a enemy to the MCU Spider-Man. He's like the Two-Face of Marvel, when you think about it, but a lot more divided between his two halves. They could really play with the duality between the two sides, and also they could play with the duality of Spider-Man and Peter. This would be like a movie where it's like, hey, this or this, you know, almost like I think Spider-Man 2 did this, so they could just do that again. He also works as one of those villains who could be at the top of things, like Kingpin, with his own henchman, the Inner Demon. So, like, as I was saying with Kraven, you know, Kraven's more of like the hitman assassin role, you know, where it's like they get hired by a bigger villain, and Mr. Negative works as the bigger villain. One plot point they could use from the Spider-Man game is that Aunt May in the game apparently works at one of Mr. Negative's soup kitchens, which is called Feast. So he could use this as leverage over Spider-Man and somehow, you know, use that against him. You know, like maybe, I don't know, like he could like fire Aunt May, or like, you know, kidnap Aunt May or something like that. Aunt May could be like the main, like, side character, like the damsel in distress, not, you know, his girlfriend or whatever. I don't even think they had a damsel in distress in Spider-Man Homecoming. I don't think they did anything with Liz. But, yeah. And similar to Kraven, he could have a really good one-on-one fight with Spider-Man. Not that crazy, but it could be really, really good. I mean, just look at the E3 trailer for the Insomniac Spider-Man game with the helicopter fight. That was glorious. And also, because of the PC craze everyone is on right now, him being Chinese, or, you know, at least Asian. Not sure if he's actually Chinese or not. I think he's Chinese. Anyways, since he's Asian, you know, it gives him a higher chance of being involved, because as I said, like, they're just on this massive, like, hey, let's have as little white characters in these things as possible. And, you know, he's Asian, so, you know, it could really work. He could really work. But, yeah, that's Mr. Negative. Time for number 7. And so, at number 7, we have Venom. Now, you're probably wondering why Venom is so low on this list, but that's mostly due to the whole, like, Venom movie that they have. Like, Sony apparently are, like, making movies about multiple, like, Spider-Man based characters. Like, I think they have, like, a movie with, like, Black Cat and Silver Sable as like a team, you know, and apparently they're doing a Venom movie, you know, as like the main character. For some reason, I have no clue why. They just want to expand or something. I don't know. But being that he's one of Spider-Man's arch enemies, one of his main villains, of course. The two others, there's like 3 of them. The 2 other ones are on this list, so you'll find them when you find them. I feel like he deserves a spot on the list purely because of that. And I think the Venom in the Venom movie that Sony are making is gonna be Eddie Brock, whereas the MCU Venom could be Flash Thompson. So, you know, you could have some difference there. And it worked perfectly since, you know, in the first Spider-Man movie, you know, the Spider-Man Homecoming, Flash was changed into a modern bully who, instead of, beating Peter up and, messing him up like in the Tobey Maguire movies and the Andrew Garfield movies, he just makes fun of him and mocks him and, verbally abuses him and gets away with all this stuff because, he's rich, his family's rich. So if paired with the Venom symbiote, he could become like a proper physical threat, like he can actually beat Peter up now because, it looks like Tom Holland could like mess the guy who plays Flash up, just saying. But yeah, and also I think he could like allow the symbiote to like control him, because one thing with like bullies and stuff that is sort of like a thing common with bullies is that the reason why they are bullies is because they have like problems like in their head, like they get abused by their parents, or they don't get many friends or something like that. That's why most bullies are bullies. It's not because they just hate they're just bad people. They just have bad experiences and stuff. So he could because of like some psychological problems, could like the symbiote control him and do his stuff for him. And of course, by extension, they could tease at the end of the second movie that Venom could be giving birth to Carnage. Like in the mid-credits scene, you just like see the symbiote either with or without Flash, who knows, like doing weird stuff, and then like something red comes out and you're like, oh my goodness, they have Carnage. And Carnage could be the villain for the third movie. So that could tie in very well. You have Venom in the first one, in the second one, and then Carnage in the third one. But yeah, that's it for Venom. Time for number 6. And so at number 6 we have Black Cat. So same thing with Venom. She's a bit lower on the list, not by much, but she's a bit lower on the list purely because she's gonna have her own like movie. Well, technically not her own movie, but she's gonna have a team-up movie with Silver Sable that Sony is making for some reason. Still don't know. But yeah, so she's a bit lower on the list because there's not a high possibility that she'll be in the MCU, but there's still a chance. Being that Liz is now gone, Felicia could step in as Peter's main love interest, the only villain on this list to be able to do so, because most of them are dudes. Or maybe she could have a Gwen Stacy role from Spider-Man 3 and be a third wheel to Peter and his new girlfriend, who might in fact be Michelle from the first movie, Spider-Man Homecoming. And you're probably wondering, why Michelle? Well, her initials actually are MJ. I think her full name is like Michelle Jones, and so her initials are MJ, which could be a hint that she'll be his new love interest and be a replacement to Mary Jane. I know I don't exactly like that idea, but it's Zendaya. She's like, I guess, a big actress. So like they might want to use her properly, as like the love interest and like a main character and stuff. So there's that. And besides that, her being the main villain of the movie is fairly unlikely, and maybe will just be like a side villain, sort of like Catwoman from Batman Returns. Of course, she wasn't exactly the main villain of the movie. I honestly don't even know who was the main villain of the movie. I want to say it was Penguin, but at the same time, it probably was like the guy that Christopher Walken played. Can't remember his name. Christopher Walken from Batman Returns. Like, one of them was like the main villain in the movie, but Catwoman was sort of like a side villain, and at the same time, Batman's love interest. So I think maybe she could have that sort of role. Of course, not be completely like that, but they could introduce something similar to that. And yeah, so that's it for Black Cat. And of course, just like pretty much every villain on this list, mostly, like, I guess almost every villain on this list, you could have really good one-on-one fights between, them and Spider-Man. And Black Cat and Spider-Man, I honestly feel, could have a really good, like, one-on-one fight. But, that's just me. So, yeah, time for number 5. And so at number 5, we have Scorpion. An unlikely entry, Scorpion's alter ego, Mark Gargan, appeared in the first movie as one of Vulture's associates. He is so high on this list purely because of that. And similar to most villains in a lot of film adaptations, he could just be a regular criminal who shares the same name with like a normal, bigger villain. You know, like as I said, KG Beast in BVS was just sort of like a normal dude. He wasn't, you know, KG Beast like in the comics or whatever. So sort of like that. However, he could be transformed into the Scorpion in some fashion, or, you know, somebody completely different could actually appear as the Scorpion, seeing as how Mac said at the end of the movie, he has friends on the outside, maybe alluding to him returning in the next movie with his own allies, or somebody, like, similar to him, you know, that turns into a Scorpion or something like that. Like, maybe, you know, he is like a bigger part of like this group, you know, that Scorpion has, and you know that's why he has the tattoo. I don't know, purely speculation here. He is also very similar to Lizard, so they could have Scorpion in that kind of role. So, you know, like a character similar to Lizard from Amazing Spider-Man 2. They could sort of like change up some of the things, you know, but make him similar to Scorpion, to, you know, make him Scorpion in this movie. But yeah, so that's 5. Time for number 4. And at number 4, we have Tombstone. Now, I feel like Tombstone is fairly underrated. You know, that's just my opinion, but Tombstone is a very cool character, in my opinion. One thing, he can go between the hitman assassin role and the boss role very well. As I explained earlier, you know, you have the hitman assassin kind of guy who's like hired to take out the main character, and then he's hired by the big boss kind of guy, if you know what I mean. Sort of like how Joker hired that, you know, all the assassins in Arkham Origins. That's sort of like the best thing I can get. You know, he hired all the hitmen on Batman, and he's like the big guy who hired them all, if you get. Yeah. In the Daredevil Netflix show, Kingpin has been put in prison. Now, in some cases, he does run his organization while in prison, similar to, I think, Amazing Spider-Man 2 game, and, of course, the Insomniac Spider-Man game. But Tombstone could be introduced and either take over, you know, his business, or at least work as an enforcer for him, or even just makes his own empire, being that Kingpin is in jail. Of course, being that Daredevil takes place in the MCU, Spider-Man could come to blows with Tombstone, and maybe even team up with Daredevil to take him down in, you know, the sequel. That would be pretty cool, you know, tear him up with Spider-Man and Daredevil. And maybe by extension they can add, they can make Hammerhead one of, you know, Tombstone's henchmen, or, you know, even his right-hand man, or who knows, maybe he could just be, you know, the main guy here, not even Tombstone. Tombstone can be like the enforcer for Hammerhead, you know, you never know. I really like, you know, the Mafia kind of characters, so, yeah. But that's number 4. Time for number 3. We have some big ones. We have some big ones in the top 3. Here we are in the top 3 with number 3, who of course is Doc Ock, the main villain of Spider-Man 2, the best Spider-Man movie and one of the best superhero movies ever made. So, you know, yeah, Doc Ock is just simply fantastic. You can employ his character arc from Spider-Man 2, where he is a scientist who has his break, asks for money from Oscorp or even Stark Industries, and it all blows up in his face, causing him to go full mad scientist. You could have a remix of his Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon arc, where he's a scientist working in Oscorp who helps Norman, or, you know, something like that, with criminal activities. You could have the Superior Spider-Man arc, where he's already an established enemy of Spider-Man, and maybe even, like, you know, fuses with him, sort of like in Superior Spider-Man, where he pretty much becomes Peter, but not really. Like, I think he kills Peter and then becomes Peter, and then somehow, some way, Peter comes back. I don't know. Yeah, or, my personal favorite, version, like, personal favorite arc that I think I made. I do think it probably exists somewhere, but that's this idea came from me. He's a scientist from Stark Industries who gets pretty much screwed over by by Tony and whatnot, and seeks to destroy the entire business, and just goes haywire, and like Spider-Man and Iron Man have to deal with him. So many possibilities for such a cool and legendary character, I guess you could say. But yeah, now we're at number 2. At number 2, we have Mysterio. Oh yeah. A villain who has yet to appear in the films. However, Shattered Dimensions showed that Mysterio could be a fantastic and just great main villain for Spider-Man. You could have him be a basic everyday magician who uses science and party tricks and robotics and yada 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 to like do his whole magician thing and like be a basic criminal, or you could make him an actual wizard. And side note, by the way, Mysterio could also be a fantastic antagonist for Doctor Strange, being the magic thing. That could work really well. You could make him an everyday criminal, as I said. You could make him a guy who just has a personal vendetta against Spider-Man, or, just a full-on villain who wants to conquer / destroy the world. There's a ton of good possibilities here, and tie in the fact that the character's a novelty pretty much in the movies. As I said, Mysterio is a strong candidate to be the main baddie for the sequel. Time for the honorable mentions, and of course, number 1. At number 1, we have the Green Goblin. Of course, who else would be at the top of any of these kinds of lists, man? Arguably, Spider-Man's greatest antagonist, who in some way, shape, or form has been featured in every Spider-Man film. He was the main bad guy in Spider-Man 1. Harry was in Spider-Man 2 and 3, and then he became the Goblin in 3. Then Harry again in Amazing Spider-Man 1, and he was Goblin in Amazing Spider-Man 2. The only Spider-Man film he hasn't been in is Homecoming, of course. So, well, a character similar to Goblin, either Harry or Norman or hell, just Oscorp in general. They didn't. I don't think they even mentioned Oscorp in Homecoming. So, yeah. They could introduce like a new storyline where Norman or Harry is a scientist who worked for Tony or something along those lines, breaks away, forms Oscorp, and attempts to recreate the Captain America serum, and has it go horribly wrong. Sort of like, the original Tobey Maguire film where, Norman was testing out the serum, and then, he went insane and stuff, but he got, like, super strong and whatnot. So it's almost, yeah, it's sort of like that, where he is almost like Captain America, but he goes insane. That's sort of the basic idea here, and I think that's what it is in the comics, too. But that's just one idea out of a million you could use for Green Goblin. He's just fantastic, a fantastic character, and you could do the Tobey Maguire thing where Norman dies, and then Harry could become the Hobgoblin in the 3rd movie. Of course, they haven't actually used the Hobgoblin yet, and I feel like, they could just use the name for, like Harry becoming the Green Goblin, or, the Goblin, whatever. They could just call him Hobgoblin, and not, like, Goblin Jr., or just straight out making him Green Goblin. They could just make him Hobgoblin. But, yeah. But, that's it for that. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed This video, I don't know how long it's gonna be. I think it's about like 20 minutes or something. So, yeah. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me who you think would be the main villain of Spider-Man among these 10, or even your own character that you have that's not on the list, you know. But yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed. As I said, I'll see you in the next one. Troll on, baby.